Thank you everybody for coming. This is our Lakers Open Water Q&A session, and it's been brought to you by an initiative of Women for Tri. I'd like to introduce you to our Lakers strength and conditioning coach, Kent Dredge, and Mary Mitchell, who is a multiple-time Kona qualifier and finisher. So between the two of these guys, they've done over 40 Ironman. They've both experienced Kona. Mary has one not great experience, and the rest have been quite brilliant, and I know that Kent absolutely loved his experience when he was there. So we do have some questions for each of the guys here, but if you have any extra ones, throw them in. This is a very light, casual question and answer. We will start off with Kent. Kent, a question that we all ask: why do we have to do our drills?
Well, if we want to get better, we need to do our drills. Swimming is a very technique-orientated sport, and so it's important that we do the drills to improve our technique, which is, by improving our technique, enables us to go faster through the water, feel more comfortable while we're in the water.
So you're saying we have to do them?
Yes, we have to do them.
And would you agree with that, Mary?
I would to a certain extent. I think drills have a place. You can focus too much on drills. They won't deliver you you have to balance it out with what else you want to get out of your swimming session, particularly if you're a busy person with a limited amount of time to spend. So some technical work is very good, and I agree with Ken. It's very technical swimming, and it's probably the most technical element of the sport of triathlon, which is swim, bike, run. So it's worth concentrating on, but you also need to focus on building strength in the water, and that comes through swimming and strength work in the gym. So I think they have their place, but I wouldn't be spending every session focused solely on drills.
Thank you. Kent, what happens if one of our ladies has come in and asked us a question on freestyle is the only stroke she can do? Now, how do we prevent overuse of our shoulders? I'm sure there's a lot more than that, just the shoulders. But how do we prevent injuries if we only know one stroke, and that's the one we keep doing?
Yeah, look, an important thing that we should be doing is doing some conditioning work. That can be done in the gym or at home. In fact, you don't need to spend huge money on a gym membership to do that. If you purchase a resistance band, which you can probably get for under $10 from the local sports store, and then doing it. Obviously we don't have time to go through all the different things you can do with it, but doing strengthening exercises around building the strength in our shoulders through internal external rotation, through so band pull aparts, and some of these things I'm talking about may not make much sense without a demonstration, but you not only have to build that, it's also about developing the scapula at the back of the shoulders to be able to hold a quite strong position through the upper body. And so there's a number of exercises you can do with that. If you then have the opportunity to then progress and start using light dumbbells, you can do that, and then obviously then progressing, if you have the money and want to go to a gym, you can go into the gym and start using cable machines, etc. But it's not just the shoulders, because you need to also develop your core and make sure you're developing your leg strength, because if not, when you're swimming, you'll find that you're sinking a little bit through the hips, which means then your shoulders are doing so much extra work than they need to do, which will ultimately lead to that, which could lead to injury if you're not doing those things. And that all being said, you don't have to spend. Everyone has this thought process to go to the gym. I've got to spend hours in the gym. You don't. You can do most of your stuff in. You can do a conditioning program in about 15 minutes.
I was about to say, what I'm hearing is that we probably do need a strength and conditioning coach to give us an idea of some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, whether you want a coach, which may cost you money, or you want to go online and have a look, there's certainly a lot of information online.
So you could follow a program.
You could follow a program. The important thing is probably where a coach comes into play is when you should be doing things and when you shouldn't, like backing off when you're coming into events, and when you're in your off season doing, back on the drills thing, for example, in the off season is when you're doing your drills, but as you're going into season, that's when you can drop your drills and focus really on the swimming.
He's pushing these drills. Yeah, when you're in these drills. All right, thank you, Ken. Mary, just a couple of slightly more personal questions, I suppose. Chafing.
Chafing. There's a fantastic sign I saw at Cairns Ironman, and it was a particularly wet year, and someone had put up on a sign on the bike ride, "Chafing the dream." And it was, I think everyone that rode past that thought, I know where that's coming from. Chafing is very uncomfortable, and you usually get some in the swim, and you can then aggravate that on the bike ride, and it can become quite distracting from your race, so you want to avoid it as much as humanly possible. The keys to avoiding chafing are having a wetsuit that fits properly and make sure that you're comfortable in it. Using a good quality product to lubricate around the seam areas, the wrists, the feet. That will also help with getting your wetsuit off quickly, and particularly around your neck. I also find that you can get rubbing under your on your rib cage, so put some good lubricant there. There's several very good brands on the market, and one of the most outstanding products, and is very inexpensive, is good old Vaseline. And Vaseline everywhere is what I use mostly, particularly if it's a hot humid race where you're more likely to be putting water on yourself in the bike ride, and so chafing is a real issue. If you can liberally apply Vaseline or your preferred lubricant to everywhere, then that will help with avoiding chafing.
Beautiful. And that doesn't affect the wetsuit?
I know people say that you shouldn't use a petroleum-based lubricant with wetsuits, but I haven't noticed any impact on the wetsuits that I've used, and I've used a variety of different wetsuits.
And we're talking over 20 Ironman here,
So yeah,
Yep.
I think it's fine.
Beautiful.
Because generally it's under your clothing. And
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Best nutrition before we head out for a long swim, Kent?
Well, that's a really open-ended question
very
because
open-ended.
everyone's different.
Some of our ladies are talking about the fact that they get sick when they get out there. Some are saying that they get really hungry when they're out there, that they can't eat breakfast because they're so nervous before they leave. So I guess it's just a bit of a tip, maybe more so than a...
Yeah, well, if we were looking at an event, which, for example, I suggest you need to eat about 2 to 3 hours before, which will give plenty of time for whatever you've eaten to be digested, and obviously a carbohydrate-rich meal. So, for me personally, I eat Vitabrits, but if you have a lot of stomach issues, you might prefer to do like a smoothie or something that's once again making sure it's got the carbohydrate in there. If I will also preface that by saying that you need to practice whatever you do before race day. So if you're going to do a smoothie, you're going to eat Vitabrits or whatever it may be. I know some people do muffins and this type of thing. You need to practice before, and so you should, like for a session like we've got out here tonight, be a great idea to practice that, to work it out when you plan to do it on race day. Have it 2 or 3 hours before, and then you're ready to go. And you might want to drink. I personally, I'll drink an electrolyte on the way to the event as well, especially if it's a hotter climate. So once again, it's really important to practice those things when you have the opportunities like in this.
So one of our ladies did ask if she was doing an endurance swim, should she have, and she was talking an Ironman distance when she asked the question, should she take a gel out with her on the swim?
I never have, and if you actually look at the science behind it, unless you're going to be out there over 2 hours, you're not going to really need it. And I think from memory, it's about a 2-hour cut-off anyway. So you've got to remember what you've eaten the night before and what you've eaten in the morning is all a build-up of carbohydrate, and you're going to have at least probably an hour and a half of fuel to be glycogen in your body to be able to burn before you need to replace that.
So really have a good breakfast, get out there, and then when you get back in,
Yeah.
then?
Yeah. So me personally, as soon as I get on the bike and I start, that's when I'll start settle in on the bike. And nutrition, I don't know about Mary.
Like you, I don't ever take anything out in the swim. You don't need it nutritionally. You have topped up your glycogen stores with your carb loading pre-race and what you've had in the morning before the race. And like Ken, you need to eat 2 to 3 hours before, and you need to practice it. So, and then I come in off the bike. I don't eat or drink anything for probably about the first 10 minutes on the bike, because you need to get your heart rate down, find your legs, get into your rhythm. And then I start a nutrition plan, which I have worked out with a nutritionist, and I know then what I have to start eating and drinking and how often I have to eat and drink. And again, I have had to practice that in the months leading into a key race. So I think if you come in out of the swim, your heart rate is very high, because you've gone from horizontal to vertical, you're running, you're taking off a wetsuit, you're focusing on your transition. If you don't try and eat or drink something else, it just doesn't sit very well in your stomach. So the advice that I've been given and I now follow is to get on the bike, get into your rhythm, find your legs, 10 minutes in, start your nutrition plan and go from there. And that seems to work well for me, but you do have to practice these things.
All right, well, thank you. Is there any questions that you would like answered while we had these people here?
Maybe talk about the sighting.
Oh, sorry, we did have one other question that I wanted to ask Mary, and that was about sighting. So we do have some people that are obviously have trouble with sighting, and also when you're out there racing with your boys. So, sorry, Mary.
That's all right. So sighting, I agree with Verity, 100% you can practice this in the pool, and I always practice it in my warm-ups and my cool-downs. And that's a good time because you're stretching out your body, you're not swimming hard, you're focusing more on finding yourself in the water, finding your technique, and it's a good time to actually practice sighting. And the best tip that I've had for sighting practice is that when you have your non-breathing hand coming into the water, so if you're breathing on the right, you have your left hand coming into the water. When you start just at the start of the catch, which is when you start to press down on the water with your non-breathing hand, that's when you lift your head, and then you can go back into your stroke. And that is the smoothest way to get your sighting in while you're swimming, particularly in the open water. And I find that I tend to sight every 4 to 6 strokes, and more often if it's wavy or if I miss sight of the buoy. So if you've missed the buoy that you're sighting for on your stroke, don't wait for another 4 to 6 strokes. Have another go at the next time your preferred non-breathing hand is in the water. Like Verity said, it's good to practice on both sides too, because the conditions will differ, but you will always have a favoured side that you go to in times of stress. And in talking about stress in a race, it can be very stressful. So when you're starting out, the buoys will always be congested. That's where people funnel in. They see the buoy, they've aimed for the buoy, and so everyone funnels into that buoy. If you're a beginner or you don't like the physicality of the fighting around the buoy, if you just come around the buoy a little to the wide, cut across it at a 45-degree angle, and then come into the next sight on the next buoy immediately, then you will probably, over the distance of a 3.8 kilometre swim maybe 2 or 3 feet extra compared to everyone else. But you don't get hit, you don't run the risk of losing your goggles, you don't get stressed or anxious, and you are swimming the best you can, because the fastest swim will be the swim where you swim the best that you can for you, and that you swim in a straight line. It doesn't matter how fast you go if you're all over the shop. If you swim in a straight line, if you sight and you are comfortable and you are swimming well for you, you will have the best swim that you can possibly have. And so that would be the advice that I would give you in terms of racing swimming. Swim the best that you can, focus on your technique, your race, your moment, and you have to be comfortable. And if comfortable means you swim two extra feet, do that. That's what I do. So I hope that's helpful.
Great advice. Did you have a last tip you'd like to leave us with, Kent? Do you feel that you may have covered everything?
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
That's probably,
Enjoy
you know,
yourself.
why do we do this? It's all about enjoying. There'll be stress out there. I mean, we've all had it. I'm sure Mary's had stress, I've had stress. All right, they're probably one of the most important things, especially with open water swimming, I think, is to, if you get stressed, stop, relax, get your breath back. You know, whether it's lying on your back or, you know, 95% of races you'll have a wetsuit on, so you're not going to sink. So just sit, relax there, get your breath back, and then go again. You've done all the hard training, and if you get to an event, to think that it could be all over just because you had a panic attack. But if you know all you've got to do is get back on the shore, you're all good again. So just take your time. Don't worry about time. Just let people go past you. Relax and go for it.
The other tip that I should have said for racing is also, and particularly for if you do have difficulty in accessing open water swimming, is most races have an organised swim where you can swim the race course, and that's really beneficial. Not to race it, but to go round the course, stop at every buoy, look at what's around you, look at what can I sight on. There's usually a piece of geography or a building or a set of trees or something that you can use in the race to sight on to help you swim in a straight line. So it's really helpful to swim the course, the whole course if you can. There is usually water cover, so you're quite safe. And use that as an opportunity to practice your skills and get comfortable in that particular race venue and spend that time working out. If I'm going around this buoy, I can look at that building over there and then I'll be going in a straight line. And when then I come to that buoy there, I need to be looking at the shore and I will see those palm trees or whatever it is that you can use to sight on.
For those of us that are racing Busselton, you can actually walk all the way up to the jetty, turn around, have a look in, and rather than swim around that particular course,
can.
that could be a bit
You
of a
can.
tricky one.
It could,
Yep.
because it's not a straight jetty. It's
Oh,
got a
yeah,
bend
it's got a
in
bend in
it.
it.
It's got a bend in it like a banana. And you don't want to be following that jetty all the way around because then you'll definitely swim more than 2 extra feet.
Yes.
You could swim through it.
Yeah. My very first Ironman was, you don't have to record this, my very first Ironman was at Busselton, and it was in the days that we didn't swim around the jetty. We swam 2 laps in a square, and it was a particularly windy and rough day. And I remember starting and thinking and standing up after about 3 strokes in a complete panic attack thinking, I just can't do this. I don't belong here. I just can't do this. And I thought, maybe I could swim out through the jetty and then go up on the beach and no one would see me. And then I just remembered a friend of mine who was not a strong swimmer, and he had just a horrendous swim at an Ironman in Japan, and I thought, look, if he can do it, then I can at least give it a go, and I'll go round once, and if I don't like it, I'll get out and stop them, but at least I've had a good crack at it, and I'm not just getting out and saying I haven't had enough. And of course, once you go round once, you think, oh well, I might as well go round a second time. It's not that bad after all. So you
And
can
I
just
happen
plug
to know
away.
that both of these guys have a little reward system at the end of their race. We're talking pizza and Guinness over here, and we're talking big fat ice creams
Friends
over
over
here.
here. That's right.
So sometimes if that's what you have to think about to get to the end of the race,
That's
do
what
that.
you do that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you,
Ken.
Suzanne.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mary. Much
Thank you, ladies.
appreciated.
Thank you.